Hey Gearheads, and welcome to GT Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I am your host, Corey, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. On this week's episode, we've got a little bit of an emotional one. We've got definitely more personal appeal to this one than I think any podcast we've recorded up to this point. But I also, before we jump into all that, want to give you a little bit of a status update of what we're doing here at GT Garage Talk. So if you've been following us on all platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, everything, you will know that last year, 2022, was big for us. Our YouTube audience doubled in size. Our Facebook audience, I haven't even done the math on it. We exploded. We're at 45,000 followers on Facebook, and it is the biggest single platform we have to this point. And to that end, it's shifted a little bit of how we do what we do here on the channel. And we're definitely a little more video heavy and picture and blog post heavy than we have been with the podcast. Some of you may have noticed after Thanksgiving, I took a week off, and we didn't have a first week of December podcast. And you might have also noticed since the end of 2022, we haven't had another podcast. This is the first episode of 2023, and that's because this year I want to take a little more time cultivating the friendships, the connections in the industry to bring you episodes much like what you're about to hear on this episode that are a little more meaningful and a little more purposeful, and just dive a little bit deeper into the people of the industry than what I was able to do last year, all of last year. Essentially, I'm a one-man show here, from shooting videos to editing videos to all the back-end work on all social media platforms. Pretty much all of it falls on my shoulders. Yes, Holly comes in and helps, but she works a full-time job. And, yes, Tucker's on the videos as well, but he's 4, soon to be 5 years old. So a lot of this falls on my shoulders. And when it comes down to producing podcasts that I would listen to myself, I felt the need to scale back for 2023 and to really reach out to the people throughout the community that I've been so involved in since 2020, to really get to know the people a little bit deeper and to craft these messages and these episodes just a little bit more. So yes, we're scaling down from 52 episodes to 12 this year, but the conversation, I pray, will have improved and will be worth your continued investment here moving forward, because on this month's episode for January 2023, we've got a good one. He is a returning guest. We've had him on 2 separate occasions that have both turned into 2 standalone episodes themselves. So 4 prior episodes of this podcast have been a conversation with Bryant Blakemore, longtime friend of the channel. Has been, as I mentioned, a blast talking to him. Both times we've interviewed him, the episodes have turned into 2 episodes worth of content. He's very, very passionate about what he does. He is in the off-road racing community, has his own off-road racing network, Toro Racing, and in this episode, we dive into what motivates him moving forward. I do not want to spoil any of that. And with that, I say, why don't we just dive right on into my conversation with Bryant Blakemore. Well, Bryant, it's been a while, but great to have you back on the podcast with me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate being a part of it, and I always enjoy having a conversation with you, Corey.
Absolutely. We love talking to people from all over the industry, and it seems like no promises on this episode, but every time we've talked to you in the past, it's turned into a couple episodes worth of content. So we'll see where this conversation goes.
Right. Yeah. I guess that might indicate that I like to talk about these things quite a bit.
It just, it shows passion, and that's what we like sharing here on the podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I certainly have that. It's been interesting the last, 6 to 8 months or so, with dealing with that. Some things have kind of changed to make me evaluate that a little bit differently and what that means and how it comes about for me, as an individual. But I think that there's potential for a lot of good to come out of this, and a lot of opportunity for others to be involved and help some particular communities out. And I can't ask for anything more than being able to share my interest with other people and do good with it. And so I'm really excited about the opportunities we've got coming up.
Well, it's been almost exactly a year since we've talked to you, a year and a month.
Wow.
So why don't you just kind of lean into exactly what that is, what communities you're wanting to help, and we'll just dive right into the deep end.
Sure, absolutely. So, as some of your listeners may be familiar with, I race off-road trucks, and I race them in Mexico and out west and in Texas, and I'm deeply involved in that industry, in supporting events and supporting race teams, and trying to rebuild my own series, things of that nature. So that's my primary interest. And to get real personal, real fast, in July, early July, I believe it was late June, early July, I was diagnosed with autism, and that has led me down a path in life where I am working to find value and meaning, and a place where I can be of service. And that also explained, basically my entire life's history of my, let's call it, an intense fascination with cars. A lot of that, not the subject matter, but that intenseness stems from the way that I've learned that my brain operates. And that being basically one of my sole focuses in life, and places where I felt comfortable and gained knowledge and things of that, it was all automotive based. So that getting that diagnosis and having that realization, and that explanation throughout my life of certain situations and how I interacted in those situations. And, every day is something different now because I can view it through this different lens, but it really helped me feel comfortable with what people call, intense passion. It has its downsides being that passionate about something. It can take its toll on some things. But like I said, I was motivated when I found that out. I was motivated almost immediately to try to do good with that and to try to use that to help and use my race program as a tool for advocacy and for fundraising and for bridging a gap of understanding, and so with being diagnosed and me having a race coming up, the Mint 400, coming up in March, that I'm preparing for right now. Well, I've been preparing for it since I broke the truck in December. Yeah. Last Mint, which I think we discussed on the show about a year ago.
Yep. It was fresh news at that point.
Right. Yeah. And so throughout that year, up until the summertime, I was searching for an opportunity to add philanthropy to my race program.
Right.
Racing and being able to be involved in it as deeply as I am, and the connections that I've made and the feeling that it gives me when I'm in my car, truck, whatever. It means so much to me that I wanted to share that with others and be able to give back. And I searched and racked my brain to try to figure out how can I do something charitable with this racing, and that the thought came to me, okay, well, let's develop a pledge drive where people can donate per mile that we complete of the race. And this does two things. It raises money in an interesting fashion, and it allows I guess it does three things. It raises money in an interesting fashion. It motivates me and my team to do the best we possibly can. Because not only are the people that are donating counting on us, but the recipients of those donations are counting on us as well. And so that puts some pressure on us, but it gives us motivation that what we're doing is something useful. And in addition to those two things, it allows an opportunity for the people that donated to interact with our race team and racing in general. Maybe they don't know about off-road racing, so this is an introduction for them, and they can follow along while we are racing on the live tracking and the live show that the Mint 400 produces and puts out live. So they can watch our team going around the racetrack and cheer us on from at home and see the other types of vehicles that compete in this type of event and interact with the team while we're racing through my social media channels and things like that, and watch for updates and see what the team is saying about our progress and are we having trouble and how is it going? And, if there's any opportunity when I come through the pits to give a short little interview and say, well, this lap we did this and learned these things about the course and the truck and all that, and it allows that interaction for people to be a part of the action without actually being there. And I think that's valuable, especially for people that are unfamiliar with my sport. Mm-hmm. And I think that's exciting, and they hopefully will feel like the money that they're donating is not just writing a check and sending it off and, oh, that's great, but they actually receive something from that in knowing that their participation by watching the event and by watching on social media and commenting and sharing and things of that nature is of value, and I appreciate that. And so that's why I wanted to do that, the pledge drive thing. So that leads me to what community could benefit from this type of a charitable event. Where can I send this money and where can it be effective? I struggled with that through the first half of the year. And then, as I mentioned, when I was diagnosed with autism, immediately my brain said, this is where we need to do something. So let's find out how to do that. And I researched online places that deal with autism in adults, which is pretty hard to find information on. So that's another thing that I'm hoping that I can help. I'm 36 years old, and I was diagnosed less than a year ago. So I didn't know my entire life that my brain functioned in this kind of way. I knew that it was different and difficult and things like that, but I didn't know that it was actually something. And finding resources for adults at that level is difficult. There's not a lot out there, and you can Google it and see that there are not a lot of resources for people in situations like me. Right. And so fortunately I live in Lubbock, Texas, and through Texas Tech University, there is a place called the Burkhart Center for Autism Education and Research. I thought, okay, great. Let me contact them and see what they think about this idea and learn about what they do and provide to the community. And I sent them an email. I said, my name is Bryant Blakemore. I race off-road cars. I'm going to the Mint 400, and I would like to attach some sort of charity to my race program to try to bring awareness and raise some money for y'all. Is this something that you think would be valuable? And they responded right away, very excitedly. Yes, this sounds awesome. When can you come meet with us? And I set up a time. I went to go meet with them, and I learned from them that they offer a program called the Transition Academy, in which their students ages 18 to 30, so adults, are taught skills that they need to be able to be independent and live on their own, as well as learn about the job world and how to get a job and how to hold on to that job. And they're placed in internships that are oftentimes in a lot of blue collar trades, which I found extremely fascinating. My original idea for charity work was to try to team up with Mike Rowe and the Mike Rowe Works Foundation, and which I'm still pursuing that goal. But I come from a blue collar background. I worked in the oil industry, and I found that looking back across the 15 years I've been doing that, the way my brain functions is actually advantageous in that career field. And it has helped me be successful in my job and keep my job for such a long time and things of that nature. So when they mentioned that, and with my interest in blue collar work and supporting blue collar work, I thought, this is perfect. This is the perfect place to use an off-road racing program, which in itself is built on the blue collar industry. Most of the racers, especially the big time racers, trophy truck teams and whatnot, those guys have blue collar backgrounds. They own construction companies or agricultural companies, things of that nature. And so what a perfect way to tie all of these things together. And the pieces just kept falling into place to be right. So met with the Burkhart Center, told them about what I wanted to do and kind of how I wanted to do it. And they told me about their programs and what they represent. And we agreed that it was a perfect fit. And so that's how we ended up putting together a pledge drive to raise money for the Transition Academy through the Tequachi Motorsports Vocational Skills Fund for the Burkhart Center here in Lubbock. And I could not be more proud of being able to do this and also to share it with as many people as I possibly can, so that they can learn about off-road racing and learn about autism and how it functions in people and how people with it function, and just bring everybody together, a little bit closer to teach people that we're all a little different, but we can all right, and we can all get together and get behind some of the same things and provide opportunity for others and be of service. And man, it's a lot of pressure to get my truck ready and try to finish all 400 miles so I can take as much money from people as possible to give to the Burkhart.
Well, yeah,
But
going back to
yeah,
your 3 points, point number 2, that motivation for you and your team just to
yes,
have a cause bigger than, this is fun, this is something I've wanted to do.
yes,
Now it expands to an entire community of people that you're spreading not only awareness for, but you're actually raising money for. So I think that's just
absolutely.
incredible.
And it has been my life's dream to be involved in off road racing at the level at which I am and the levels at which I hope to go to. It's a difficult road to travel on. There's a lot that is hard to explain, and it's very consuming and whatnot. And so being able to provide for others in this industry really helps me to not feel better about myself. I don't want to come off like that,
Right.
but I'm very thankful that I'm able to give back in some way through this, that brings meaning to it and value to it, which is more than my personal enjoyment. I enjoy it a lot. It's difficult to do. It's a challenge. The conditions are hard when you're on the course, and getting ready for it is a lot of work. And there's a lot there, but it's more meaningful to me that I can share it and get other people involved in it as well, and do something good with something that makes me happy is what I think we should all strive for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For fans that have listened to this podcast for years, I'm a man of faith. It's been a journey for me over the past 20 years, just learning more in that realm, and just to see the way that God connects pieces and people and places and events. It would be so easy, this diagnosis comes along, to be down on yourself, to turn completely inward. And I'm grateful for your desire and your passion to focus outwardly, and to look at how you can use this as a benefit to others, and learn more about yourself in the process, to continue doing what it is that it has inspired you. It sounds like a majority of your lifetime.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's overwhelming at times.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some loss involved with it, and we're kind of moving away from car talk, but that's okay, because it's all kind of connected. But I am thankful for the opportunities, like I said, to share it and be of service. And the way everything connected to this endeavor just started falling in place told me that I was doing the right thing and moving towards the right goals with it. And I appreciate that. It wasn't hard to get a hold of anybody and say, I want to help, and how do I help, and, not get any feedback. It was really easy. And that's what tells me that it's the right thing, to do that. So now it's on me to finish prepping my truck, which I'm in the middle of right now. It's coming along slowly. And then for me to go out and get on the race course and keep it together and do the best that I can on it, so we're not done yet.
Right. So we'll kind of pivot to the truck and the race, and what that is looking like and shaping up to be. This is your old Ram 2500, correct?
Correct. Yep. Correct. And we left the truck in, podcast world. We left the truck broken after the Mint 400 in December of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I made a lap and a third, and I split the front differential open. It was brutal. We got the truck back to Texas. I took it by a performance dealership, actually a Mopar dealer that does a lot of performance stuff here locally. And they asked me if I was interested in putting a new power plant in the truck. And I said, absolutely. More horsepower is always good. And so we dynoed the truck, and it made on the old setup, it was a 5.7 liter Hemi with a 5-speed automatic transmission, 411 gears on 37-inch tires. We dynoed it to get a baseline and see what we were going to be improving upon. And it made 145 horsepower to the wheels, which is not that much more than my, 1.9 liter Volkswagen Jetta.
That explains a lot of what we talked about last year with, being at the back of the pack and seeing all these clouds of dust come up and around you. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that definitely, it also explains why in certain areas of the race course, I thought we were getting trapped in silt beds or something of that nature, and had to put it in 4-wheel drive to continue. Mm-hmm. And then embarrassingly, and I've never released this footage, but I have video footage of me in that area from outside the truck, and there's nothing there. It's basically flat and not silty, not very deep silt. The truck just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so there's video of me coming to a complete stop on this wide open, flat terrain. And I was like, yep, that's because I had no power getting to the wheels. And so after that, the dealership offered a 6.4 liter Hemi, and that's Scoggin-Dickey Performance Center off-road, their off-road division, which is part of the Scoggin-Dickey chain of dealerships and race shop and all of that here in Lubbock. Mm-hmm. And they've got a strong name in the race world, not in the off-road world as much, and mostly in the GM LS performance type world. They do a lot of things, but they're branching out into off-road and branching out into Mopar and gaining a stronger foothold in that stuff. And I was thrilled that they asked me to represent them. So they offered a 6.4 liter Hemi. We picked out a 392 Scat Pack motor out of a Challenger, a manual transmission car because it has a different valve train in it. It doesn't have the cylinder shutoff.
Okay.
Deal, the MDS or whatever it's called, which is an area of potential oiling issues causing rocker problems and cam wash and things like that. So I don't have that problem with this motor. I was already intending on yanking the 5-speed out of the truck and putting in a more robust transmission. And in my research, I decided to stick with Mopar, stick with an automatic, and go with an 8 HP 70, which is the 8-speed automatic that's in almost all the Mopar stuff in some variant.
Right.
All the way,
the 9-speed.
Right.
The 9-speed's terrible. Yeah. I can speak from experience.
Right. So the 8 HP family of transmissions is in everything from V6 cars all the way up to flagship TRX trucks. It's in 2-wheel drives and 4-wheel drives, cars, trucks. The Power Wagon has one behind a 6.4. So it's all over the place. There's a lot of them out there, and the reviews on them are fantastic. Everybody that uses one loves it, and I haven't seen a whole lot of complaints or issues out of them. It's also used in BMWs and a couple other cars. It's a German ZF transmission. And I have the ability to put it in track mode, which will give me full manual function over the transmission, something that was not possible with the 545 RFE that was in the race truck previously. I had zero control over that. I couldn't put a tune on it. I couldn't put a manual valve body in it. There was no ability for me to control that transmission, which is what drove me to replace it with something better.
Right.
So 6.4 Hemi, 8 HP, 70 with manual, the ability for manual control through a DCT sequential style shifter, which should be pretty cool. And then new axles, front and rear, both. I upgraded the rear axle to an 11.5-inch American. Same thing you would find behind a diesel in my truck in a 2500. And then I upgraded the gears to 488 gears, and I put a mini spool from Dirty Hooker Diesel in the rear as well. And I'm upgrading to 40-inch tall tires. So hopefully that will get me out of the rocks and, give me a little better ground clearance and put that power to the ground. I should gain roughly 200 horsepower at the wheels over what I had before. So I am going to have to completely relearn how to drive this truck. It's going to be an entirely different animal than what we had before. And I'm thrilled at the way at which it's coming together. So I've been working on all of this prep work for the last year. I basically started as soon as we got it off the dyno. I took it back to my shop and started yanking parts out of it and getting rid of them. Last Sunday, we fired the motor successfully for the first time. That was an enormous relief. Doing that much modification is scary. And with the time frame that I have left before the mint, I have to hedge my bets as best I can to get it all running. So we fired the motor. It ran, sounded good. No odd noises. Awesome. That was super exciting. It was good to hear it. So left to do, we have the transmission needs a little bit of wiring and then some tuning. And then I'm waiting on some modifications to the computer for the motor to come back so I can reinstall all of that permanently. And then a few little odds and ends here and there. It's mostly together. I got to do some work on the brakes and then, fill them and bleed them and all the small type stuff. There's a little bit of fabrication work left, nothing critical. I'm hoping that we will be able to test drive the truck next week and at least get it to move under its own power, or at least on jack stands, put it in drive and show that it spins, and if it does that, then we're going and we're going to go racing, and it's going to be awesome. So yeah, it's been a year trying to get it all together.
So you say, short of some transmission, computer, brakes, brake work, fabrication, you fully intend to have that thing mobile within a week or thereabouts.
Yes.
What then? You said you had to kind of learn how to drive it again, how to race it again, because it is going to be such a power bump. Where do you train? Where do you practice? How do you get in the mindset and get familiar with this vehicle before?
Right. So
show.
So I'm gonna give your listeners a sneak peek into something that I have not said publicly yet, but here we go. I only have after next week. I've got the rest of this week and all of next week, and then I have to go back to work.
Right.
And I work out of town. I work away from my shop, and so I then only have 2 weeks of free time between now and the day we leave to go to Vegas. And the day we leave to go to Vegas, which is March 6th, is the day that I get off work. So I have to drive 2 hours home from work, put my groceries in the fridge so they don't go bad, and immediately get in the chase truck and load everything up and drive to Vegas that day, that afternoon. So I am very short on time.
Yeah.
And that said, the motor, transmission, and both axles are all new, which means they are going to require some sort of break-in. Recommended break-in for crate 6.4 Hemi is 1,500 miles. I don't know how that's going to happen. I have been unsure about this, so I have developed a scheme. And the scheme is I am working to get the truck to pass an inspection, be insured and registered, and I'm going to drive it to Vegas.
Oh, wow.
So,
there's something to be said about driving the vehicle instead of bringing it on a trailer. So that
right.
is ambitious, but yet again,
it is.
Going back to what you said earlier, it's motivation. You've
Right.
got that motivation pushing you, and it's bigger than just I want to do this. So
Right.
very
It's 800 or 900 miles to Vegas from here. That should be close enough for the break-in miles. The drivetrain is a drivetrain that you would find on the street. It's not abnormal. It's a stock 6.4 Hemi. Nothing super fancy or exotic. It's in a basically stock 3/4 ton truck. I'm going to meet all the legal requirements to get it to pass inspection and all of those things. And that way I can do this, on the up and up. But yeah, that was the idea that crossed my mind. I said, how am I going to put these miles on? I don't want to show up to the start line with 3 miles on the truck. And I just have time. I don't have time to attempt to put 1,500 dirt miles on the truck and then re-prep everything before the mint. And I said, okay, this is a OEM truck, so let's do some OEM stuff with it and get it back to street legal, and then let's go racing, and let's drive it to Vegas, tell the story, bring attention, do something epic that most people will not, especially people coming from as far away as I am.
Right.
And it'll definitely give me plenty of time for some self-reflection. The truck has no glass. It has no radio. It has no air conditioning or heat. So it's going to be just me with a headset on and maybe some earbuds connected to my phone and the purest form of hot rodding, getting back to it, your vehicle in the road and you being connected to that, so that's what we're going to do. And like I said, y'all are the first to hear it publicly. I have not made any announcements because it's not set that it's going to happen that way, but that's the goal. That's what I'm working towards.
Wow. So you want to talk about an underdog story? This has got all the makings of it right here. A truck that was broken a year ago,
right?
A DNF, and was underpowered at the time, and just a scrappy effort to get it back together, up and running, and going to be sneaking in there just under the deadline. um, really putting the work in to make sure you get the miles in, because I don't know if everybody truly understands how grueling motorsport is on
Right.
vehicle and driver. Like,
Right.
yeah, sure, it's going fast, but not properly breaking in an engine and then putting it in that kind of condition is like not
Right.
practicing for a marathon and signing up for the New York Marathon. Like, it's, you
Yep.
just don't do it. And
Yep.
so yeah, there's a lot going into this. It will be very exciting to follow along and keep up with you for sure.
Yeah. And I think, and looking at it specifically off-road motorsport, it's hard on equipment because you are in rough terrain, so everything is bouncing around, and you're doing that for half a day without stopping, and you're hard on the brakes and hard on the throttle and off the throttle and in and out of it and shifting gears and making all of the pieces of equipment work, and the axles are moving up and down as much travel as you have, in the terrain, and you're bouncing off rocks and you're in sand and you're lugging it down, and then you're wide open across the lake bed, the dry lake bed. And it a lot of vehicles, especially if you look at the upper echelon, like you can compare horsepowers across motorsport. Trophy trucks nowadays, the top of the top are 12 to 1500 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a significant amount of power, even in drag racing and other forms of motorsport, where they're only driving, a quarter mile at a time. Right. Or if it's a road course race, they're on the course for 3 or 4 hours, maybe. But it's paved and the pit's in the same place all the time. And there's the traffic is not the same, and there's areas where you can pass and things of that nature. Whereas as soon as you get off road, there's none of that, it's all unknown. As soon as the green flag drops, you have no idea what the next turn is going to look like, even on the following lap, because the terrain changes every time a car drives by. It changes the ground, and so every lap is different and everything is different every time. So, taking a completely fresh drivetrain is good because it doesn't have any miles on it, but that drivetrain's got to be prepared,
right, and lubricated and stress tested, basically.
Right. And some of my goals with the new drivetrain are in the dirt on 40s across the dry lake bed. Well, let me say this: in December, when we were hauling across the dry lake bed on 37s with the 5.7 Hemi and the 5-speed, we reached 75 to 77 miles an hour. And that was it. And it took the whole lake bed to get up there. That's all she wrote. I am shooting for triple digits this time. I want to see 100 miles an hour on a 40s in the dirt in a 9,000 pound truck across the dry lake bed. That's one of my goals with the new drivetrain. And second to that is I want to see an improvement of my lap times, my average speed around the course. I want to try to pick up a 2 mile an hour average speed around the course. If I achieve those two goals, well, one, if the truck makes it all the way to Vegas in one piece, right, we're in this. Two, anything after that is a total win. Right. But two, if I can achieve both of those goals, I will count the money and the effort and the time put in for all of the changes that we made to the truck to be considered successful. I will consider that successful if we can do 100 miles an hour across the dry lake bed and shave a 2 mile an hour average speed around the course off of what we had before. Yeah.
Well, man, I'm excited to see how this all shapes up. And I know you're kind of working against the wire here, but I think with the way everything has fallen into place thus far, I already mentioned being a man of faith. I'm very excited to see how things continue to fall into place so that not only you are able to check another thing off this lifelong dream list, but you're able to help a community that needs the assistance in the process. And I'm very excited for you. I'm very excited for this journey and to see the next steps and what happens next and how it all plays out.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate being able to do something with a purpose further than my own enjoyment. Mm-hmm. I want to be of use, and I want the things that I do to be meaningful. And like I said, providing opportunity to others and being of service is really, it's something I consider, and so this chance to do this and to do it the way that I'm doing it, it means a lot to me. And it means a lot to me that people find it interesting and exciting and want to follow along. I'll probably, because I will be driving across, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada. So 4 states. Mm-hmm. On the trip to get out there, I'll have live tracking going through some app or something that I've seen other people use on epic road trips and whatnot. I hope that I can meet people along the way and encourage them to pursue things that they find meaningful. It doesn't have to be automotive or off-road racing, but if there are things that people find meaningful to them, especially if it's a way for them to give back to someone else or a group of other people, I hope that I'm able to give them what they need to pursue that, and in addition to that, the last half of the year and this year, I encourage people to seek consultation for their mind. I think it's really important to pay attention to yourself and find help if you need to talk to somebody. Yeah. Don't be afraid of that and whatnot. We're all unique, and we don't have to try to do everything alone. And there's resources out there for everyone, and you never know, it may change your life. Yeah. And being able to understand yourself will help you interact with others and interact with yourself on those times where it might be a little dark, and so I hope that these are the messages that people can get from what I'm trying to do here. And, and if I can provide just one person a little bit of light and guidance in their journey, whatever it is, I consider that the biggest success out of everything that I'm working on. I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
And yeah. It's crazy.
Well, I will say one of the biggest benefits of the global events that have happened over the past 3 years are the strides we've made in mental health awareness and making sure people can connect with people when they need people, because through quarantine and isolation, we realized the importance of human connection. And
absolutely,
That's absolutely why this podcast exists. We want to create and foster human connection around this idea of vehicles and our love of vehicles. And you are doing that through racing, and there are just so many different avenues that we can connect and make impacts on one another and on the world around us. So I'm grateful for your time today. I'm grateful for your friendship and being able to keep up with you over the past 2 years since we first met.
Yes, sir.
So we'll kind of close out here, and I'll let you share with the listeners exactly how they can get involved in this
Sure.
pledge drive and how they can keep up with the status and the progress and track you on route and all that.
Absolutely. So the first place is Torah, TORRA racing.com/charity. That is the webpage for my race association and the specific page for this pledge drive. So Torah racing.com/charity. And there you can find, there's a couple videos about the process I went through to work with the Burkhart, why I chose that and its significance, which we touched upon in this podcast. Mm-hmm. There's another video explaining kind of how the pledge drive thing works. And then there's a form to fill out for how much you want to pledge. You can pledge as little or as much as you want per mile. Or if you just want to donate directly to the Burkhart Center, a flat rate, like $20 or whatever you're comfortable with, there's a link to do that as well on that page. So you can just donate directly. And all of these donations are oh gosh, I just completely went blank. You can file them on your taxes.
Okay.
So they're all tax deductible. That's the word.
Yes.
And 100% of the money that is gifted to the Burkhart through the pledge or direct donation goes to the Burkhart. 100% of that. If you do sign up for the pledge, then part of that is filling out your email, and I will be sending out newsletters probably starting Friday to everyone that has wanted to be a part of this. I'll be sending out a newsletter via email, giving updates on the truck, giving some little product descriptions from some of my part sponsors that I'm working with, some of my partners in the race program, explaining what we're running of theirs on the race truck and how it functions and, the benefits of it, things of that nature. Of course, there'll be continual links to go back to the charity page. And then as we get closer to the event, in that same newsletter format, I will send out links to the live tracking, links to the live show so that people can follow along and watch, links to social media, all of those things when we get on the road. I think the app is called Glimpse, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'll send out links to that so you can follow whatever the app is that I'm running as we're traveling down the highway to get to Vegas. I'll provide all those so that people can stay involved. And, at some point we may try to do some Q&A sessions or something like that so that people that are watching can ask some questions and interact in that manner. In addition to the website, toraracing.com/charity, or just the Torah Racing page, you can find the link on the homepage for it as well. In addition to that, Instagram, Taquachi Motorsports, TAQUACHE_motorsports. That's my primary Instagram page where I'm documenting as much as I can. And then Facebook is my personal Facebook, Bryant Blakemore. You can follow me there. My friend list is getting a little bit full, but add me at the end, or just make sure that you're following along. I post a lot of stuff there as well. And during the race, I'm sure that I will be giving someone access to at least one of those platforms so that they can keep keep things being posted and update and interact with people and get information back from it. I've also this year it's pretty exciting. I've teamed up with a few new partners. Scog and Dickey being the primary. Furch Fabworks has done some suspension work and some other fabrication on the truck. Well, we've changed the suspension design a little bit, so it should be a little bit smoother ride. I've made a few changes like that, but in addition to those, I've asked two, I don't know if they want to be called influencers or not, but I've asked two people that I know are involved in off-road and blue collar type stuff to co-drive for me at this race. So they will be in the navigator seat, and you can follow them on Instagram as well. It's Yeti and YOLO. It's the man called Yeti on Instagram and the Wild YOLO on Instagram as well. And I'm super stoked to have them involved. They have gone on all kinds of off-road adventures. I met them in Baja and asked them to be a part of this when they were in Baja, and they jumped at the chance. And I'm so stoked that they're a part of it. They align great with the things that I'm trying to promote, especially the blue collar type work and people and things like that. And so I'm grateful that I've got opportunities to bring people like that on board and give them an opportunity to create some of their own content and try out something that they may not have done before. That's going to be pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm excited for all of it to keep up with you. I will put links to all of that down in the show notes, making it super easy for each and every one of you listening to get involved and to see just how this works. Like I said, I'm just excited, and I can't wait to see how the rest of this story unfolds.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have to do another episode, and
absolutely.
I've been thinking about it, and if the truck survives the race, then I may drive it home too. So.
Well, there you go. It would just be poetic, right? Didn't finish last year, and not only drove you there through it, but back home as well. I'm looking forward to hearing that story.
That's the type of positive energy that I'm trying to put out into the world.
Yes. Well, all prayers to you, Bryant, as you prepare for this adventure.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Corey. Again, I appreciate your time and having me on the show. I always enjoy talking about these things with you and hopefully entertaining your audience some. And at this time, a little bit of call to action for people to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves and bigger than me and whatnot. And I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And there you have it. I did not touch on it in the episode, but the word autism means a lot here to GT Garage Talk and the family here. I've got nephews that have been diagnosed. I've got close friends with kids. I've got friends that all fall under the umbrella of autism. And just to hear more about what the Burkhart Center is doing through their extended academies. I was looking for the word, the Transition Academy, and what they do, being able to, okay, you've made it through school, you've successfully run that race. Now let's move you to the next step and gear and equip you for that next step of life. I love it. I love everything about it. I love that Bryant was able to be vulnerable enough, not only himself personally, to go and figure out what was different, what needed explanation in his life, but now to take that and give back so much more. I'm very excited for the rest of this story that has yet to be told, and to see exactly what comes of his scrappy efforts to get the truck ready and in shape to participate in the Mint 400. I'm very excited to see what all we as a community can do to help give back through his charitable giving branch of his racing, and help the Burkhart Center and this Transition Academy do what they do. So I'm excited for it all. I cannot wait to see how it all shapes up. And I thank you for listening. I thank you for being a part of this family, of this community where I get to meet people like Bryant and I get to help craft and share their stories with the world. And for that, I'm just incredibly grateful for you and for your ears previously each and every week, moving forward each and every month. Looking forward to sharing more stories with you. You can keep up with us in all that we do: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, everything at GT Garage Talk, or just head on over to gtgaragetalk.com. But until next month, gearheads, bye.